has a base 30% energy resistance and 20% critical resistance. All incoming armor break debuffs have their potency reduced by 50% for each other armor break already on Rintrah. This has a minimum potency of 0. And Rintrah gains increased attack rating per armor break on him. Whenever either champion lands a hit, Rintrah has a 60% chance to inflict a non-stacking passive Neutralize on the opponent for 3 seconds, decreasing their buff ability accuracy by negative 100%. If the opponent is Cosmic or a superior class, the Neutralize's chance, duration, and potency are doubled. Every time the opponent is inflicted by a Neutralize effect, Rintrah will gain 1 mystical charge, or when they fail to gain a buff because of Neutralize, he will gain 2 mystical charges instead. Mystical charges have a max stack of 20. While Rintrah has 10 mystical charges or more, if either champion strikes with a light attack, he inflicts 1 rupture debuff. And while Rintrah is rooted, he will instead inflict 2 more rupture debuffs. All Rintrah's ruptures deal physical damage over 15 seconds. While at 10 or more mystical charges, all special attacks are unblockable, and getting struck or blocking an attack while Rintrah's back is to the wall grants him an unstoppable passive for 6 seconds. While Rintrah has 20 mystical charges, he will go rooted when an opponent activates a special attack. This root will end when the opponent's special ends, and has no cooldown. Rintrah will lose 5 mystical charges every time he is knocked down. And after 15 seconds after inflicting a rupture, he will lose all 20 mystical charges. When Rintrah contacts the opponent with a light ending combo while their back is to the wall, he is inflicted with a root debuff for 6 seconds. Upon the root debuff expiring, it goes on cooldown for 12 seconds. Rooted champions cannot move, but can still attack, block, and dodge. Activating a special attack removes root and prevents it from applying. While rooted, Rintrah becomes unstoppable and inflicts taunt on the opponent, reducing their attack rating by 20%. He also has increased energy resistance and crit resistance by 1% per mystical charge. If Rintrah is rooted and he does a heavy or any special attack, this will end his personal root early and inflict 5 rupture debuffs. If Rintrah performs a heavy attack, on hit, it will pause all personal ruptures for 4 seconds. Using the special attack 1, Rintrah will gain 1 mystical charge per hit in this attack. If Rintrah has 10 or more charges on the last hit, he will gain a Fury passive, increasing attack rating for 10 seconds. On activation of the special attack 2, pause all ruptures on the opponent for 4 seconds, and the final hit of this attack gains increased attack rating per rupture on the opponent, and at the end will remove all ruptures, rupture timer, and mystical charges. Using the special attack 3, Rintrah will heal for 1% of missing health per mystical charge. After this attack, the opponent will have their back to the wall. When Rintrah is awakened, every time a Neutralize prevents a buff, he will gain a power gain buff, giving 2 to 10% of max power over 2 seconds, depending on signature level. This has a max stack of 3. And while unstoppable, he will passively regenerate 1 to 3.01% of missing health on getting struck or blocking an attack by the opponent. Again, this scales with signature level. Rintrah is one of the more unique champions in the game with a very different playstyle from most other champions. Similar to Dragon Man, he does excel from backing the opponent into a corner. At the start of the fight, you will begin to back your opponent into the corner using medium ending combos, helping you to build up those mystic charges. The ideal threshold is to be above 10 mystic charges when going for your special 2. This is because it will make the special 2 unblockable. Now, as you back them into the corner, you will want to make sure that they have very little power, so you will probably need to bait a special or two. Once they have very little power, you will then once again back them into the corner, this time using a light ending combo. Using the light ending combo, you will root Rintrah into the ground, meaning that he cannot dash back and the opponent cannot push him backwards. At this point, you will start hitting the opponent with light attacks only. As you hit the opponent with light attacks, whether into their face or into their block, and as they retaliate back with light attacks into hits or hitting into your block, you will begin to build rupture debuffs on the opponents. You will want to do this until you hit your special 2 threshold, and then just before the root ends, you will throw that unblockable special 2 and do, hopefully, a huge amount of damage. Now, you will not see a great damage showcase in this video as I am using a 4-star Rintrah, and he just cannot output the amount of damage that obviously a high-ranking 5-star or 6-star would. However, similar to Anti-Venom, his special 2 has the ability to crit for a lot of damage, some of the highest crit damage in the entire game. Unfortunately, his crit rating is a little low, which means he is not going to crit all the time, and in my experience, not even often. However, when you do have higher level champions, 5 or 6 stars, even the non-crit damage can be quite tremendous. But if he does happen to crit, sometimes you can end the fight within the first 20 seconds of getting that special 2 and hitting it off for some major damage. When using his special 2, Rintrah will explode all of the ruptures on the opponent, increasing the amount of damage for that special 2. So, if you would like to build up more ruptures on the opponent than the average 20 or 30 something that you would get with one round of the special 2, instead of ending the root mechanic with a special 2, end it with a heavy attack. And then you will continue to throw heavy attacks to pause those rupture debuffs on the opponent. Obviously, this will probably push you towards your special 3, and then you can just cycle back around after the special 3 is over, continue to throw those heavy attacks, parry and heavy attack, in order to pause the rupture debuffs that are on the opponent. Once the cooldown for the root mechanic has expired, then back them into the corner or keep them in the corner, hit them with that lightning combo, and then continue to add those rupture debuffs onto the opponent, trying to maximize the amount of ruptures you can get before hitting that special 2 again for increased damage. And remember, when you are trading those light ending combos with the opponent, you don't have to worry about Rintrah's health as much, as he will have an unstoppable buff as well as increased resistance to the opponent. Now, other areas in the game that he excels, he really is great at taking on cosmic champions, as each of his attacks do have a neutralize debuff, or a neutralized passive I should say, that they will place on the opponent. The neutralized passive works similar to a stagger in the sense that when a buff is activated, it will nullify the buff. However, the difference is with this neutralize, it does not expire, so it doesn't consume the stagger when that happens. So you can continue, as long as you're hitting the opponent, you can continue to nullify all the buffs that they will have or try to trigger on themselves. The healing and the power gain that you get from the signature ability are nice, but it is not required to have Rintrah awakened in order to have a great damage output from his rotation. So you do not have to have that in order to maximize the amount of damage he does. Finally, guys, when talking about his special attacks, the special 3 is mostly unneeded unless you just get pushed to it when you're trying to build up more ruptures. The special 1 will actually add on more mystic charges, and this can be a good mechanic if you find that you're just not getting the RNG that you want and you're not placing those mystic charges. However, be careful to stay too long with 20 mystic charges. If you do end up at 20 mystic charges, whenever the opponent throws a special attack, you will be rooted wherever you are. And this can kind of throw you off just a little bit, so be very careful about that. But otherwise, guys, again, push the opponent back into the corner using those medium ending combos, bait out the special attack so he has very little power, and then again push him into the corner with a light ending combo to root Rintrah in place, and then trade light attacks with the opponent, building up as many ruptures as possible. And if you're going straight into your special 2, just end with that special 2 right before the root ends. This will end the root, and as long as you are above 10 mystic charges, the special attack will be unblockable. Overall, Rintrah will take a bit of practice and a bit of finesse in order to get used to him and get the most out of his playstyle. But if you can master his playstyle, you will have access to one of the highest damage output champions in the entire game.